All right. That's new.
That is new, yes. So we're all stunned by a Zoom Polly participating in our call. Yep. So welcome to the last edition of First State Kopites for this season 2021. I think for a long time we were Long May You Burn in Hell, but maybe we'll have a slightly different version by the time we're done. This is a podcast for Liverpool fans in Delaware and friends of Liverpool fans in Delaware, including our esteemed friends Daxs and Haitham today. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or YouTube or wherever you find your podcasts. Shout out today to Kate from Venmore Street in L5, I'm sorry. Oh my God, my Liverpool geography is awful. Who joined us at Rooney's today. She is the member of the official Liverpool Sports Club of Delaware, who was born closest to Anfield. And I hope she, anyway, listens to this episode. This is a special episode where we invited hundreds of our best friends, and maybe 3 of our best friends showed up. We're going to review 2021 season. Where are we? Liverpool finished 3rd, despite sitting at times way below the waterline for lots of it. And apparently, Roy Keane, if you're listening, this wasn't the worst defense of a title ever. So, what an introduction. Daxs, in order that I could see you. Daxs is here from Baltimore. Haitham is here from Chicago. Thank you so much for joining us. And Enrique, from who was hanging out at Rooney's with me earlier today, is here. Maybe we'll say something about his Gini Wijnaldum shirt before we're done. Okay. There's a wonderful quote that I'm going to use, but I'm going to get into that, how the Guardian described this season, which I really, really liked. But before I say anything else, I'm going to start with the first question. I'm going to start with the negatives first. So many things that I could point to this season that was so I never want to see that again. And even if it wasn't about this season, I still don't want to see it again. So I'm going to go around and ask the question of what was the low point of the season from your perspective? And again, I'm going to go in the order I can see you. So Daxs, I'm going to go to you first. The low point of the 2020-21 season. And there's a lot of stuff to choose from. And some of it's very serious and some of it's very trivial.
There's a few to choose from.
There's a big list.
Yeah. Honestly, I think we touched on this at the beginning of the season when, I'd probably after Christmas, where kind of things started to unravel for us, and the fact that everyone's probably going to end up throwing this in our face. I think we're the team that seems to lose titles despite having the ignominious distinction of being a team that can't seem to finish out seasons when we're first after Christmas and we seem to bottle it, whatever term you want to use. And it looked like it was getting to that point with all the injuries and home form that looked like it was unraveling. But for me on a personal level, if you want to get serious, it was just I'd poured so much of myself into this particular season simply because of how poor things had been in 2020 because of the pandemic. You could see what was going on, the abject selfishness of some people around the world, and that soccer was the Liverpool specifically was my salve, and it ceased to be it at that point. And because I've invested so much of my joy, and it sounds really silly, but my joy was so wrapped up in how well Liverpool did, just to see things go as poorly as they had. My wife said my face would be red after games and my blood pressure was through the roof. And I'm not an unhealthy person, but I could feel my pulse in my head just because I'd invested so much in it, and I felt like something had been torn away. So that was the lowest point. But strangely enough, apathy is a great thing. When you stop caring, things seem to get a lot better. And because things were so bad, quote unquote, it anesthetized me, I guess, and there's the best way of putting it, to how badly we were doing, because it just seemed to be wave after wave of it, and part of it was just kind of shutting down. But things started to get better, and so I'd have to say, and this is really stupid, was the last gasp equalizer by Newcastle was probably the lowest point of the season for me, just because there was so much involved, and we were so close. We were in touching distance of at least getting into the Champions League, and that just felt like the biggest kick in the pills that I could imagine. It took me a while to recover from that. Yeah. So again, it's recency bias, but overall, like if I was going to put a pin in the worst possible moment, it was after the goal had just been disallowed and we couldn't hang on for another 60 seconds, and they ended up putting it in the back of the net with the last kick of the game. It just hollowed me out.
Mm-hmm. I'm identifying with so much that you've said, but you're right. The Newcastle game was the only one where my head was actually in the cushion on our sofa after that goal going in, like in disbelief that this could all be happening. Wow. It's a good job the brain does lots of stuff to protect us from this, right? Because we lived that moment till now. So Haitham, what are we thinking? Low point of the season. I'm not even going to prompt you. Maybe I'll prompt Enrique before I start talking. He starts talking, but go ahead.
Just like there are so many low points in the season. I mean, from, luckily I haven't had any loss of friends, family members from the pandemic. But just seeing, a couple of the members of the team lose, not just because of the pandemic, but just, loss in life, from Club's mother to Alisson's father. And just, the sickness that some of the players went through, was devastating as well. Just not knowing what their bodies were going through or are still going through. So that was kind of a low point. But the lowest point, I think, for me, two things happening at the same or in the same match. Basically, the injury to Van Dijk, that horrible foul by, I don't want to even mention his name because he's a dinosaur. He's not, a normal person.
You mean the goalie from the 10th place team? That guy.
Yeah.
The team who finished 10th.
And then the injury to Thiago too. Thiago, I had a lot of hopes for him when he was signed, and that injury when it happened, I was like, okay, this is basically a season-ending injury.
What up?
So yeah, that match basically.
Season saved. It's Lingerr. Woo!
Sorry, keep going.
No, it's okay. Hi, Lingerr.
Hi.
So yeah, that match, that Everton match, injuries to Van Dijk and Thiago, and with Van Dijk, hopefully, he'll be fully recovered when he comes back next season. Thiago, we all know that his playing magnificently as of the last couple of months.
So sorry about the interruption, Haitham, but thanks so much for joining us. We just got started, and we're really on what's your low point of the season, and there's so many to choose from. So I'll let you think, and then we'll go to Enrique. I don't know if you've met Enrique, by the way. He's from our supporters club here in Delaware. So
hi, Enrique. My name is Lingerr.
Very nice to meet you.
So we'll go to you first, Enrique, on low points. Again, there are so many things to choose from, and I might do I'll read out the M&M story that the Guardian talked about, which I thought was appropriate. But let's see where you go.
Yes. So like you said, with so many greater problems around the world, there's so many to pick from. But I'm going to keep it to more specifically Liverpool, and I'm actually going to say when Joe Gomez got injured for me, and I think you could say when Virgil went down, but there's certainly texts I sent after Virgil went down where I was very upbeat and confident that this is where Gomez is really going to show his value and really step up and fill in his shoes. But when Gomez went down, that was where it first hits that we're going to be playing the rest of this season without either of our starting center backs. And I'm a firm believer, and I don't think these are Liverpool tinted glasses I'm watching through, but Gomez at his best is the second best center back in the league, right there next to Virgil. So to lose 1 and 2 like that in quick succession, I mean, that was just, it's like taking 2 punches to the face back to back. So I think that was, for me, my low point, because you just knew at that point, no matter what, the rest of the season was going to be tough, whatever we were striving to achieve.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure we could easily go down that path, right? Because I do think the moment where Matip got injured against West Brom had a really dark effect on the team, where it was like, oh, this can't be happening, So, but as you point out, there were many more moments in the season, and let's stick with low points, Lingerr. So what? I'm sure it's much easier for you to think of high points, but things that you would have wanted to change, perhaps, about this season.
Yeah. I mean, most of it. But I think for me, it's actually not the direct on the pitch, but like the moment when Jurgen was like, yeah, maybe we conceded it, when they've asked him just after the death of in his family and all this sort of stuff. And like, I don't know, Sadio saying this is the worst season of my career. Like, I don't know. I think there are games where it feels like this was terrible, but there are moments where it felt like there's a clear defeat in the mentality, and that was much worse. Like, I've seen us been worse, but our mentality was like, we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
But what I saw is like, we're so mediocre, but our mentality is like, we're terrible. And that was like, I think the mentality was harder for me. More than any individual game, the mentality was tough.
Yeah. Actually, I think the whole mentality of the whole season was tough for me, and I'll go to. I was tempted not to use this, but I will. The Guardian actually wrote this piece about the whole season, and they talked about a piece of candy called a Malteser, and if you live in North America, I'm not even sure you know what that is. So I kind of tried
Maltesers are great, better than U.S. American chocolate.
However, you probably don't want 370 of them, which was the whole point of the article. What it said was it says, we love Maltesers. The outer layer of chocolate melts, leading you to this center that you can either crunch or suck slowly as it fizzes and dissolves in your mouth, creating an explosion of serotonin that makes us feel halfway human. And it's like, that's what they argued that like all these Premier League games feel like. And then they said, but after eating 370 of these addictive little brown blighters, we're no longer floating on a cloud. We're lying in a pool of our own drool, full of self-loathing, and cursing the day we ever set sight in these the dastardly red wrapper. It's a similar feeling we've experienced this year, watching every single Premier League game to date beamed into our front room. Can we identify with that? Perhaps.
I told you.
Absolutely.
This season was like the ending of Snatch, where Boris the Blade simply will not die. No matter how many bullets Vinnie Jones puts in him, he just still keeps going and going and going.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I think from January 1st until now, this has been one of my weirdest periods as a Liverpool fan, where it's like, oh, we're so great. Oh my God, we're so terrible. Oh wait, we're okay. Back to Europe.
But
it's tough.
But apparently, one of the other things is all those other teams were pretty terrible, also. So the general standard was, and I know we didn't touch on it, but there's empty. So I'm going to round this out. Let's talk about what we want to cherish from this season. But we could have talked about empty stadiums. We could have talked about some of my pet peeves. We could have talked about petrodollar clubs being successful in Europe without crowds. The biggest thing I noticed, and you can kind of include this in things to cherish, is fans came back in England like a week ago. And one of the things that I've complained about at various points is how long like some teams have taken to take throw-ins and free kicks and corners. I don't know if anyone saw the Brentford Bournemouth game yesterday. It was bizarre. The coach of Brentford was like, it was kind of a bit creepy actually, but he was waving his arm in the air, kept pointing at his watch every time Bournemouth took more than 2 seconds over a throw-in, a goal kick, or whatever else it was. And it was like, Yes, that would have happened this season in tons of games based on our experience. Sorry, I've gone off at a tangent again. But one of the things not to be cherished about this season. So let's talk about the things that we're going to take away and feel better about as a consequence of the 2021 season. Going to go to you, Daz, to kick this off. For me, this list seems shorter, but hopefully you're going to help me out here.
Well, again, I'm going to go with the recency bias, and it's for me, it's the Alisson goal. It's not just how momentous it was in terms of how we how big of a goal it was for us at that particular point, and how it just felt kind of season defining in a lot of moments where there weren't a lot of things that were season defining, and just how the fact that it's the first time a goalie's ever scored for us, and along an illustrious history, the fact that it's the first time a goalkeeper's ever scored with his head, the way that he sank to his knees, and you could see that how much it meant to him. And then I still cry my lamps out when I watch his interview afterwards. I can't help myself. It's no matter how many times I watch it, like my heart just goes out to him. Like, and you can see that he's wearing his pain, and how big that was for him as a player and as a human being. And aside from it, how big it was from us to beat, and especially that gravy boat, snide, arse wipe of a human being, to do that to him, that made it even like that was the chef's kiss on all of it. So I'm gonna have to say, again, I'm sure there are many other ones, but when you asked that question, that was the first thing that popped into my head was the Alisson goal.
Yeah. I think you had the benefit of going first because I'm pretty sure that was high on most people's lists.
Cross that out.
And the gravy boat guy was not Sammy Lee, just in case you're confused. Yeah. So Haitham, having stolen obviously the number one highlight of the season in many respects, where would you go from there?
That was not my highlight, by the way, Des. So no.
Okay.
My highlight of the season was getting this shirt, buying this shirt.
All right.
With this shirt, Liverpool is undefeated, and I haven't washed it since I got it. It's a little stinky at this point, but I finally found a very, very lucky shirt. So that was my highlight of the season.
Wow. So you're taking that into next season then? Is that the?
It's going to the washer as soon as I get off the episode.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be another one next season.
Okay.
Another
Use the breeze.
I did wonder what you were talking about on the Signal group, but yes, I get it now.
Yeah, good shirt. Right here. I wanted to keep it a secret, not to jinx our stuff.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, and that has been a pretty impressive run, right? It was like 9 games unbeaten, 7 wins. Is that the? I forgot the numbers right. Anyway, season doesn't matter that much. My
now that Haitham said that VAR will probably come in and take our 2 goals away from today.
True. It's coming.
Yeah. So even Manchester United, I don't think it's so long after the end of the game now. I don't think they can do that anymore. You know, it's like I think you have to be within the first 5 minutes to get stuff going. So maybe there are more things to feel good about. So Enrique, what's your thing to cherish?
Yeah, so my thing to cherish this season is that we by far have the best fit choice center back in the league, perhaps in Europe. I mean, I absolutely fell in love with that. He's been immense for us these past couple of days. I'm not embarrassed to say I knew next to nothing about him coming into this season, as I think we all probably, or a lot of us can probably say. But yeah, I mean, he's. I think we've genuinely watched him grow into the role in this back half of the season, and I can't tell you how ecstatic I was when he had his assist for Jota, and even happier when he scored that header. I mean, I was almost as happy to see that goal go in as I did as Alisson's goal. So just Nat Phillips, there's not enough I could say about him. And I mean, unfortunately, I think he is, when everybody's fit, going to be our 5th choice. But long may he stay our 5th choice center back, because I think we can handle an injury crisis with Nat Phillips in the back. But on top of that, though, I do want to say shout out to Curtis Jones. That's a player that has brought so much joy to me. And I know he may be teetered off a little bit at the end, but we can't forget what he did for us in the middle stretch of that season. Especially when not only did we have all the center back injuries, we had all the midfield injuries, and we had midfielders playing in center back, and Curtis Jones came in, did a job. He probably got more minutes this season than anybody was anticipating he would get. And I mean, he's a talent. He can ball.
Yeah.
So those are my high points. Nat Phillips and Curtis.
Yeah.
So going back to your Nat Phillips moment, I really did love his interview where it's like, what's the highlight? The goal you scored? It's like, no.
He said clean sheet.
Header off the line, right? It's like clean sheet. That's that I did. I love that was a wonderful moment. Hey, maybe
both of my centre backs ended up with his like cuts over their left eye today too.
Yeah.
I saw the picture of both of them hugging, and they both have the cuts. It's a great picture. I
I
have to get
actually-
that poster up for my rooms.
I saw him for the first time, live here in South
Jersey.
Bend. South Bend. So this was not this past summer, but the summer before.
Yep.
And he was on that team, that preseason match. I think they played Dortmund. And I was like, wow, that guy could head it, and that's his whole thing.
He certainly can head it. That's
Yeah.
very fair. Yeah.
So actually, I don't know if we saw a couple of games in New Jersey and New York over the last couple of years. I'm pretty sure he was playing in one of them.
Did
Yeah.
City, I think, wasn't it?
Well, it was pre-season. There may have been drinking.
It was City, yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, there was. I saw you. Barely, but I did see you.
Right. All right. So Lingerr, this season, what do you want to cherish from it?
Wow, that's a question. So I didn't chime in for the moment, but I think there have been like an intense encapsulation of the highs and lows of being a fan, right? Where I feel like the highs were like, oh my God, we're terrible. We've got to believe, which has ended up with us being in the Champions League next season. I do think the Super League was a really hard moment. I think there have been points with a lot of Liverpool fans I've seen where they're like, we've got to sell Bobby, we've got to sell Sadio. And I'm like, this is not at all me, but like, I think the high for the season is like, I think no matter what happens with Liverpool FC, I really believe in the people who are around. So I'm thinking about like Black Lives Matter, but also Hendo's recent stuff with like mental health and social media bullying. And like, I think at the end of the day, like, I think we support a team that I can morally feel like this is what I really care about.
Yeah.
And regardless of a point in the table, I'm glad that Hendo will be the person for the other captains who's like, here's what we're doing. The other captain of the Premier League, right? And like, best moments where it really felt like Mane and Bobby have had really bad seasons, and they haven't had great seasons. But last 5 games, all you've got to do is believe.
Yeah.
Sadio got some very important goals in the last 5 games and also today. So highlights, all of them, all of the time. Yeah.
So I think
even if we didn't win.
Well, so it's funny. Apparently, this is our 3rd best performance in the league since 2015, right? This is bizarre. It's like,
but it was like, here's the comparison, because it was like, oh my God, United, so good, amazing. Oh my God, I can't believe it. And I'm like, well, we're still 3rd and we won last season, so
yeah, okay. even with all those gimme penalties. I do actually. I thought we would make more of this. Actually, I do think, and it seems it's hard to remember like exactly when this happened. But one of the things that I do think is a highlight is that like our players were at the forefront of a lot of campaigns for things that were meaningful, right?
Exactly.
Whether it be Black Lives Matter, whether it be mental health,
like
yeah,
or against the Super League, like. Mm-hmm. I think, as you all know, what I care about is our souls and our identities, right? So like, it's like, I'm really glad that we both did that. and also did well in football stuff straightforwardly. So I'm just really excited for us. Like, we didn't win the league again, okay, but we're going back to the Champions League. I feel good about it, so we'll see.
Although we are still champions of teams that won trophies with crowds. That's where.
I'll tell you what, vibing with what Lingerr was saying is like, Jurgen Klopp and his boys made it, they mugged me off. Like as a Liverpool fan from in the recent past too, when you just see so many things that slip away and you start to believe it becomes that self-fulfilling prophecy. When he asked us to be believers, he's made me a believer now. So the next time we have a wobble in a season when 3/4 of our squad is down for however long, that I can look back and say, you know what, he's going to do it. He's done it before. Like he pulled that out of the fire, dusted it down, and turned it into something sparkling, which is, I've just seen so many times in my recent past as a Liverpool fan where it just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, we're gonna bottle it again, and to do what he did, mate, I'm glad he mugged me off. I really am.
It's intense belief, and I feel like as we think about being a person, belief is very important. So I turned off my camera so I could grab the Mane Happy Returns birthday card, like.
Which is not going to work well on the audio podcast, but it looks really cool on YouTube.
I'm holding up a Mane Happy Returns birthday card, and I'm holding up a very intense my size head Jurgen Klopp thing. But like, I think it's something about belief, and the hard thing is that means that we are more screwed when it comes to crowds.
Yeah.
But the belief is strongest.
I absolutely loved, and so we're going to do one final round. Oh well, actually, we're doing really well for time. That's a mistake for me to say, I know, but so we'll do one. But I do think that his pep talk to the crowd. I don't know if you saw that yesterday, or was it yesterday or Friday, where he pointed to the camera and he sort of said, "No, we need the 10,000 people not to be nervous in the first 15 minutes just because we're not winning." And it might have felt like, oh, not only am I part of this, but like this might be the talk he would give to the team at some point along the way. Something very special about that man.
Although I think we could be excused when there's 10,000 nervous fans when Townsend went through on goal.
Yeah, I think they did well. So I watched back half the game. I didn't get through the whole thing before we started recording, but actually the crowd I thought was actually quite like calm.
They were good. They were good.
Relative to what could have happened, right? Because I do think in the West Brom game where we had 2,000, there was definitely something going on there with the crowd about nervousness.
Yeah, they utilized their time really well to abuse players and boo and Muppets.
Really booing Sadio, and I'm like, okay.
Oh, Burnley.
Okay. Yeah, Burnley.
So we could go in a bad direction and talk about Burnley fans and generally and the demographics of the team, and but we can leave it there, because what I'd like to do is I don't want to look forward because we've got plenty of time now, at least 2 weeks before the season starts again, to look ahead. Sorry, it's a joke with my wife. She like kind of said, "Oh, today's last day of the season." She says, "When does it start again?" "Oh, like August." Like, really? Like, well, yeah. Then there's the Euros and the Copa America and the preseason, and yeah. So anyway, 2 weeks, season restarts. But I don't want it. So I want to look back more than forward. If you had to reflect on this season, there's kind of one thing. Just wherever it comes from, it could be Everton's form, Richarlison's form, Haitham. Could be the new kit, whatever it is. A reflection on sort of the sort of maybe some of the bigger issues that the new kit is not a big issue, but stuff that's happening right now that you'd want to reflect on in the glow of being in third place.
I would say that I have a few things, and I'm just really excited for next season. Like, with what could have been a very poopy season for all of us, we still without our defenders, with like a kid who I expect homework from, with Nat Phillips, who needs like a lot of treatment for concussions, like whatever. I still think we did very well. And like, when looking back on this season, I'm like, my God, I was so disenchanted, and I think Liverpool's to me, and yet we still managed to have things happen. Like, and yet we still managed to support our community, and yet we still managed to be in the Champions League. And like, when I look back in the season, I think about like my favorite player is Sadio, and I'm like, not a great season, but and yet in this game, like he solidified it for us. So when I look back on this, I think I love how much it means to be a fan. I don't know how you all feel, but like fans in the stadium is huge. Fans anti the Super League was huge. Like, I think, and yet I'm glad I support Liverpool, and yet it was not our best season, but it was great.
Yeah.
Not great, but it was okay.
There were moments, right? There were moments, right? So
We
today,
somehow managed to pull it out, is what I would say.
so today, one of my favorite moments was Gini Wijnaldum might not play for us again. I hope we touch on this. And one of my favorite moments was, I mean, clearly you could hear the crowd on the TV, but in our pub where we had like a handful of people for the first time, it was a handful. I think Enrique might have been leading the do 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 Gini Wijnaldum.
Gini Wijnaldum.
An absolute banger.
It's
You
a
know, I'm
good
gonna
song.
sing that
It's a
all
good
the
song.
time.
That was a
Yeah,
moment.
a high is like, I'm so sad he's leaving. We don't need to get into that, but like, what a player he's been for us. I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that Gini was there.
Yeah.
All right, someone else go.
Gini.
Better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all.
Wow, this is profound. Talking about love and misplaced love, and Enrique, if you want to go next, I did find it interesting this week that stories emerged. The FIFA apparently offered support for the ESL.
Was that in the time?
No, because FIFA also wants to have a every 2 years World Cup.
Oh, they got it too.
Yeah, this was after they supported the ESL and then stepped away when the fans reacted. By the way, so Enrique, bigger picture. No, the new kit's terrible. Whatever you want to go with.
Bigger picture, yeah. So the season was tough, but you know, one of the things I looked up here and didn't include the stats from today, but in April and May, you want to talk about mentality monsters. Since April, we've been first in the league for shots, first in the league for shots on target, first in the league for shots in the box, first in the league for big chances, first in the league for goals scored. Sean will like this. We've been first in the league for XG, first in the league for chances created, and first in the league for big chances created. As far as I'm concerned, we are literally top of every important attacking metric. Let's carry that into next season. Let United celebrate being second. This is their best team in a decade, and we finished 5 points off them without any center backs. So I'm ready for next season. If we started the way we finished this one, I think we got a lot to look forward to.
So if Sean was here, I'm sure he'd be shouting hallelujah, despite Haitham and Daxs' skepticism about XG. But yes, I love it. That's great. I love people who do their research when they come on. That's really, that impresses
Well, I stumbled upon that and I confirmed it, and I thought, well, that's good. I'm going to share it.
Not me, but I do think we finished like 16 points or something behind City, but when we won it, way more points ahead of City. Like, what's the life?
Yeah.
United's best season in ages is still a few points ahead of us.
Yeah.
And we were missing a big Dutch lad that has more talent than half the City squad in his right.
Missing Big Verge. I don't have my wait. Okay, I can get
it. She's got it all. She has it all.
Okay. I want to see you, Yari Littman and stuff. Sorry, just it's just terrible for audio. But anyway, turns out Lingerr has something. If you're listening to this, something appropriate for every conversation in terms of Liverpool, including Virgil and Jurgen. And what was the first thing you had? But you got no Yari Littman in now. But that's probably
wait, me.
Yeah.
I only had anti-racism.
Oh,
My next thing. But someone else, like Haitham, tell us about your whole season.
Oh, so I have two things. I'm a little sad about one, and I'm very happy about the other. The one that I'm going to start with the sad kind of moment for me, which is the fact that Jose is not going to be part of the Premier League anymore, just because of the comedy that he's always brought, and I'm going to miss that. And the happy kind of moment for me is Big Sam laying a huge egg and basically confirming that he is, excuse my French, shit. I was very happy when he got relegated, and then when he doubled down on some child idiocy when he called out what's his name, Antonio. I was like, yep, I've known all along that you are a shitty person, and I'm glad you're going to be gone, and I hope you go into oblivion. So those were the two moments for me.
Awesome. I fear he's going to be. And you'll know I've shared this on the Signal group. I think he'll be coaching Crystal Palace in the second half of next season, given everything that's going on there. But
if he doesn't get that Sky Studio job that he asked for.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, I mean, I just don't get it. And I've always had this problem with leagues across the world where you have these people that keep failing and they still keep rotating. I just don't get that. We have it here in the NBA, NFL. You fail, but there are no repercussions, basically. You're guaranteed that you're going to get something else, whether it's in the media or, another job.
Yeah.
How much money Mourinho's making from residuals from teams that he can boot it off of.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're saying bring back Bob Bradley?
Actually, it would be interesting to figure out, did David Moyes make more from his 6-year contract at Man United than Mourinho's made from all his like kind of deals?
Actually, was it one of you that pointed it out? But on what Big Sam said about Ant, after Antonio did his interview, David Moyes went and did an interview and said almost exactly the same thing that Antonio did, talking about how West Brom are a long ball team. But Big Sam doesn't attack David Moyes for doing that, right?
You call the white guy, yeah.
And he still brought Liverpool into the conversation. You just got beat by West Ham. Why are you bringing Liverpool in? But
rent free.
Wow. I love that. What would you call it? The thing you have there, Lingerr, with that looks like Dortmund Klopp, actually. That looks like when they won the league and he had that big thing of beer.
No, he had his teeth done.
He screamed like this for us. He just went to Bobby's dentist.
Actually, we need a picture of that to put it on to be the image of this podcast.
Yeah.
Smile.
I think going to Daxs the last thing on this, but so one thing did remind me when you said about us losing Jose is Liverpool are doing a Jose tribute, right, with their Roma lookalike kit. It's maybe there's some, I don't know, maybe Nike knew more than we did. That was sounded funnier in my head, frankly. But,
you are really pushing the kid out there, aren't you? Like trying to drag one of us into this.
Yeah.
Screaming.
I can be dragged. I have opinions. Let's do it. So I think that the kit looks really shitty or poopy, sorry, on the screen. But when I was watching the game, I was like, actually, that's pretty good. Like, not a great kit, but I'm like, actually looks way better than I would have expected. So my next question then, which I brought up on this podcast before, is like, but are there vapor kits and will they make them for women? But like the actual kit, like the salmon pink, like gruesome color.
Crimson, please. It's crimson.
When Mane is keeping us in the Champions League, I actually think anything could probably look good.
Yeah. The Nike claims it's crimson, just to be clear. But just to reinforce your point about it looks
I think better. It's salmon. It's salmon.
It's pop color peach.
Well, I guess it's not teal. We're clear about that, right? It's not teal this year.
It's certainly not teal, but it's salmon.
22 minutes into today's game, I get a text from my 15-year-old daughter which says, I changed my mind. I like the new kit. So
I 3.
Exactly. Like a lot of us, so we're in, shout out to San Francisco. We're all in San Francisco and we're like, oh no, it looks good. We're into it.
So Lingerr, just before I go to Haitham, Daxs to close it out. Were you with Kazar today?
I was at Kazar today. That's why I'm late. I've been there from 7:45 a.m. until whatever it was just before I got here today.
Wow. Okay.
We got like a crowd, like 40, 50 people. We're all hanging out. The owner of Kazar is like, hello, you're a Liverpool fan. Would you like a drink? And we were like, yes, we shall.
That's us.
So I need to do a spot check here because at our pub today we had I don't know, at least 25 people, but definitely the most we had in 14 months at least.
Oh, that was exactly us. Like we had like the most we've had. So I only started coming back about 6 weeks ago, but it's the most we've had in so long. Like the pub was full. Yeah.
Nice. So before I go to you, Daz, you can tell us about Baltimore. Haitham, have you people back yet at the pub in Chicago?
Yeah. Actually, a lot of people were there today, but I watched it by myself in the basement of my sister-in-law's in Peoria, Illinois, which is about close to 3 hours from here. But I know a bunch of people were at AJ Hudson's today.
You weren't staying away because of your shirt then, right?
Kinda. I just wanted to make sure that the season ends, in peace and victory. So
We've declared biohazardous waste because you haven't watched it. It's been 4 months.
So Daz, well, momentous, you have the last word, I think, on the 2021 season. Take it where you will.
Thanks for everyone's giving me a chance to think about it, but ultimately, from a philosophical point of view, I think what my favorite part about this season was the unlikeliness of our heroes. And you look at someone like Nat Phillips, you look at someone like Reese Williams, you look at someone like Curtis Jones, all the people that helped put this team up on their shoulders, and they came from the most unlikely of places. When things were at their worst, they were there to help it. And they were kind of maligned because we as a group of people generally tend to be somewhat a-hole-ish about we want instant success, we want instant hits, we want instant classics. And as a part of this is kind of petty of me, but the fact that we managed to thumb our noses at pretty much everyone. The worst champions, we weren't. Everton having won the league in October, they didn't. There you go with the pigeon. Just all of the things that people were just coming out of the traps, trying to label us with, or trying to put us under. We arose on top of almost all of that. We finished third in the league, and despite whatever the footballing gods had thrown at us, from season-ending injuries to the entirety of our back line, to the entirety of our central defensive core. People talking about how Thiago was a bust flush, and how he rose above that, and how he's proven that he is indeed one of the best players in the world. All of that, and it was all of that just cobbled together for us at the end of the season to have something to absolutely cheer on and be proud of. To Linger's point, all that small stuff, all those little bits and bobs that we can cobble together and say, you know what, it's good to be a believer again. It's good to be in that seat where you're looking forward to something, and you're looking around, you're not looking up. Yeah. And that's, for me, that was the best part. There you go. There's Verge. You can't see it, but there's Big Verge. And think about how many quote unquote a new signings we're going to have at the beginning of next season.
Wow. I feel like that was a really great way to end. And we're just briefly joined by Virgil and Jürgen with Lingerr. So a couple of things I just want to wrap up with. Tomorrow night, Liverpool for the second time in 3 years are in the FA Youth Cup final and remember Reese Williams played in that game 2 years ago, which hopefully some good signs there. We talked before about some of the players in that team, but this is the end of season 2 of First State Kopites podcast, and we have so many people to thank. First of all, thanks to Sean. If you listened through this, hopefully Enrique did you proud with his stats. Like he was the only person to reference XG, by the way. Just saying, Sean.
I believe in XG, Sean.
XG for life.
But for your contributions, not just today, but through the season, Lingerr, thank you so much. Haitham, always a pleasure. Daz, Enrique, thanks so much for joining us. Look out for season 3, which will be back. Well, obviously in 2 weeks because the season will be back then. But anyway, this is the end of season 2. We're in 3rd place, and next season, let's imagine we're on that same trajectory and we'll be back in 1st. Thanks.